Okay, welcome to the June 8th. I was just thinking because Sasha has his beanie on with it being cold.
That's confusing you.
Yeah, June 8th, architecture meeting. I don't have a lot today. I've been working on some stuff for a customer this week around our dashboard. And then we do have a meeting with Fidelity. I don't know if everybody's on it, but we're going to get a dive into their evidence store. Fidelity was the company that wrote a white paper for the CD Foundation around what they got going on as an end user on their pipeline side of things. So check that out. We'll dive deeper into once we find out what they're up to. We may add some stuff to our list of things that we gather from the point of view of collecting evidence. But there's also things that I know we can add on our own to our list, like get committed signatures and those types of things. So that's going to be happening here soon. And on my to-do list, I just haven't had a chance to get to, is updating the architecture document. So just to kind of bring you guys up to speed, Trace and I did meet with the CNCF working group for the OCI registries. So that was out there with Andy, Alex was there, Jen, I can't remember if Kat was there or not. I don't think Kat was there, but basically looking at what needs to be done on the OCI registry side for supporting any type of object and adding the search capabilities into that. So that's happening on that front. On the Persia front, Sasha, as soon as I find out the invite for that, I will send you the invite for the governing board thing. It's gonna be on a Friday. But as soon as I find out from Stephen Chin when he's planning to have that meeting, I will get that off to you. On the Persia front, the interesting thing because they are an artifact repository, I think I'm going to try to move them into the OCI registry front as well. So we'll be able to merge what's going on with Persia with what's going on with Emporis, and then Ortelius sitting on top of all that, kind of collecting all the data together to visualize all that information. What else was going on? We had a meeting with yesterday, two things. On the OpenSSF side, we have briefed Krob, who is the head of the what do they call it? Is it TAC or no?
Technology Advisory Council.
Yeah, so the TAC. So we kind of gave Krob a quick rundown of what we got going on, and then another person by the name of Sal. Is she from Sonotype or is she
independent? She works with Brian. She works with Brian Fox.
With Brian Fox. So Brian Fox is going to be on our Ortelius technology committee. So we brought her up to speed, and it's interesting some of the things that she has to look at from a heavier security stance.
Yeah.
So like some of the things that she was thinking about that we may need to address once we get some data in our system is being able to take all the SBOM and all the data that we have, go through and figure out which package would make the most sense from a security standpoint to go fix, because it's going to have the biggest impact. So if you're able to go and fix one package in your application, which one would it be? And when you do that, it's going to cut you have 100 vulnerabilities and now you go down to 5 just by replacing or updating one package. So that type of data She was looking at it from that standpoint. So we're not quite there yet, but I think it's the data that we're gathering will help drive that information down the road. Any questions on that stuff? All right. Utkarsh, I
You
do
might
have.
give him an update on guac.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about guac. So we did meet with I can't remember his name, Brendan?
Brendan Lee,
Lynn?
yes. Lynn, yes, something like that. I don't know. Now I can't remember either. Let me go look.
The guac team, basically we met with them, and what they are doing is taking SBOMs, all the dependencies in SBOMs, and doing like a dependency tree graph and allowing you to navigate through it. So one of the things in Ortelius that we don't quite do yet is being able to look at dependencies of dependencies at the package level. We take the initial SBOM that's there, and just that's kind of like where we stop. So it looks like there's going to be a good integration point between our SBOM data and guac that does the recursive package dependency walking. And we've asked Sasha to go ahead and we'll get him to look at some of the GraphQL queries or endpoints that we could possibly use and be able to bring that data into Ortelius. It's a lot of data, and it gets into that whole Netflix Death Star hairball looking thing. It's hard to tell how good that stuff is, but I think if we pair up that data with what we have in Ortelius at our what we are describing as components and applications, then we'll be able to answer the question that Sal was asking about. If I go and fix this one thing, what's the ripple effect through everything else? So that is, we're going to be connecting the pieces together here pretty soon, it looks like. So, and I think what we'll need to, and also that kind of drives the AI ML question down the road as well. In order to figure out what is the your best bang for your buck, we'll need to look at, running some model against the data all the way through the guac data as well to figure out that bang for your buck. So we can tell people this is what you need to go fix. This is how long we expect it to take. And this is going to be your return type of scenario. So fun stuff. A lot of moving pieces. So any questions? Go ahead, Utkarsh.
No questions. I just wanted to share update about that abstraction layer. So
oh, perfect. I was going to go there next.
Yeah. So while refactoring few pieces, right? So since I'm new on Golang, so what happened? Since I wrote all these code in main project, okay, main package, and when I was refactoring, so I'm facing few issues there. So the objects are not referenced properly due to some reason. So I'm looking at those. The other issue that I faced was, so right now, I have implemented NFT storage, but there is also need for ledger, right?
Yes,
and,
we will. And I don't know if the ledger piece will be in that same microservice. But yes, we will need a ledger piece, a ledger integration at some point.
Yeah, and there is no SDK provided by XRPL yet for Golang.
Huh.
So I was looking at that is the tough part actually. I was looking at what alternatives are there, but looks like we can use the Python package itself, because Golang can internally support Python as well, right?
Okay.
But I don't know what will be implication of that on the performance or other things.
Right. So on the ledger side, based on that, what you just told us, we may split out into a separate microservice, the ledger piece. That would be in Python just to make our lives easier. So I'll have to look at the transaction flow again to see where things need to go in the ledger part of the flow.
Yeah, and since we are like talking about like two components, right? So we have to also take care the transaction. The transaction should be atomic, right? So that also we need to take care.
Yeah,
It does
as
not
far,
happen. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, exactly. So it doesn't necessarily have to be atomic, but what we need to be able to do is, like you said last time, there's going to be a lag that like NFT storage may be down for a couple days, and that we may need to have a job that runs like every half hour that goes and does like a synchronize. Or if we go to put things into NFT storage and NFT storage is down, that we just queue them up somehow. And then we run through the queue periodically to get things in sync. So I think on that abstraction layer, it doesn't need to be atomic, but we need to keep track of the integrity of everything, where everything stands. Does that make sense?
So like how, yeah, that makes sense. But like how we correlate the data, that will give us the answer, right? Like how, like if we are correlating data with the build ID or some other processes or something, job or something. So we'll have to correlate like what all transactions occurred as part of that build, right?
Yes, and that's where the ledger may come into play.
Yeah, in case there are like duplicate transactions happening, that will give us like this build has 10 or 20 transactions, right? But that will be incorrect.
Right. Yeah. So we have to look at it shouldn't be, well, at the ledger point, it would that would affect the ledger because you'd have actually multiple ledger entries. But for
Yeah.
the persistent storage, it wouldn't matter because all of the data would be the same SID. So
Yes.
transaction number 2 would try to go put the same SID back out into NFT storage, and it would already exist, so it's not going to hurt anything. But at the ledger point of view, yes, we would have to figure out, like you said, some identifier.
Yeah. So I'll work on that. I'll make sure that is ready and like working as well. And the other thing that I was looking at was the killer coda integration. So like Adam shared me one wiki, so I had to try that out. So basically I haven't tried that out. So basically I have to make that run in my local, and then we can embed that. That is not a work, but yeah, I haven't spent time on that.
That's okay. What about the reusable workflow that you and Arvin were working on?
Yeah, so we are going to have a reusable workflows, right? Rather than the concrete, what you call actions, right?
Right.
Yeah. So one thing that I saw as a like best practice, there need not to be like there like we don't need to create multiple repositories, because what they say, these reusable workflows will lie in the same repositories with a different name, because that will lie inside github directory itself. So
Oh, okay.
wanted to have a discussion on that. How do you want me to proceed in this?
Yeah, go ahead and move them into the .github repo. Either that, or we could do just a separate repo that's like
Okay, separate repo, and in the separate repo inside the .github, right?
Yeah. I think if we had a separate repo, I think what we should create is like a tools repo, because we're going to have other things that we want. Like I have like a dependent bot script. Arvin has his dependent bot script. Sasha has some, I'm sure Sasha has a few helper scripts as well that we should start collecting and kind of lay out in like a tools repo. And these reusable workflows, I think, would be a good place to put into the tools repo.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do you need, you're able to create the repo, right? You have permissions?
Yeah, I think I do have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to be able to, because I think so yeah, I think that will be one of the things that will, if we put all the reusable workflows there, we could run dependent bot against it. And hang on, guys.
While Steve jumps over to do that, I just want to report that we now have an official TOC. Individuals on the TOC include 2 heavyweights. We got Brian Fox, who is the co-founder and now the CTO of Sonatype. We have Vincent Dannon from Red Hat, who was the one who introduced us to Emporus. We have Garima Bajpai, who has been part of our group from the very beginning, so I'm super happy that she stepped up. Steve will be there, and then Andy Gardner from the Kepton folks who works at Dynatrace. So I think we have a really good team. Their first meeting was going to be in July, but there were too many people out in July, so we moved it up for an intro meeting for July 23rd. And those of you on the board, I will be sure to keep the board updated.
Awesome. It's gonna be interesting. And if and like we keep going, the more we find from other working groups and other end users like the Fidelity stuff, the more things that we can collect on what we need to do, definitely helps us get more focused and have a good solution that can be well-rounded for people to use.
Yep.
Cool. Does anybody have anything else that I may have missed?
Nothing that you've missed. I just wanted to get a bit more detail on the front end API thing for Salsa using Guac.
Yeah.
What language is that? Like a Node.js? Are you thinking a Node.js that talks to the API?
Well, there.
Or do I need to go and do more recon?
So their implementation, so they have a Kubernetes Helm chart to stand up Guac locally.
Oh, cool.
And so if you go to the Guac I think it's guac.sh.
Yeah, well, I've got their GitHub repo, yeah.
Yeah. So if you go into documentation, like the getting started, they'll have things about running Docker and Kubernetes, so you'll be able to stand things up.
Okay, cool.
I don't know how they have a step that ingests the SBOMs. So one of the things to make Guac work is you have to go and collect all these SBOMs and upload them into their system.
I see, yeah.
So one of the things from our meeting I could tell is they have not, it does not appear that they've looked at the storage you know what I mean?
Implications.
Thank you.
Not implementations, but implications.
Yeah.
Everyone has those days. It's the coffee, Steve. It's still working.
Yeah, it hasn't kicked in yet.
Yeah.
So I have not looked at their database backend and how they're managing that, but I think one of the things that we may need to do for on the Guac side is provide an interface between their stuff and our database to be able to suck in SBOMs from our database into or have their stuff reference our database, put it that way, for the SBOMs, because we're concerned about the storage implications of having, you know, the redundancy in the SBOMs. So I think down the road, we'll need to do something on that front. But
And
to answer,
maybe we can convince them to not worry about storing that and let us store it, and they worry about building the dependency graphs of all their
exactly,
packages. So I think we could work with them on that topic.
exactly. We just need to get a little further along on our side and get our implementation here moving along and getting some data in there. So it'll happen. I think it's just gonna be a timing thing. So
We
to
may
answer,
be able to get them to help us with that particular aspect of it. That's what I'm thinking. We can maybe leverage them instead of worrying about coding with their under guac, that they do that under Ortelius.
yeah,
We'll need to do
Yes.
some more calls with them though. I think that once we have a connection to their dependency graphs, and we're displaying it at minimum at a component level, and maybe bringing some of that, like just a dependency list up to the application level on packages in some way. We need to really think through that. If we could get that done, then we could show them what we're doing. And I think they may give up on trying to build that SBOM, that kind of that SBOM history.
so to answer your question, Sasha, their interface that they've developed is a GraphQL. So GraphQL is like a hybrid REST API type of thing. So I believe GitHub uses GraphQL as its query language as well. So basically what you're going to need to do is query their database using their GraphQL endpoints. And I don't know if that would be a Golang thing, a Node.js, or how. Or I know they built a command line as well, so I just start with the command line and see if their GraphQL can just kick out some JSON for us to consume. Yeah.
Can we invite them for a demo?
We did a demo last week with them. I don't know, Tracy, did we record that?
I don't think we did because it wasn't my meeting.
But there are recorded demos
Let me look.
on their GitHub site.
Yeah, let me look to see if we recorded that one.
I think it was under Brendan, so I don't think it was.
I think so too.
But if you go to their
Okay, I will.
website, Arvin, you can they have recorded demos.
Okay, I will look into that.
And then also on their GitHub repo, they have a way to kind of bootstrap and suck in some sample data for you to kind of play around with.
What day was that? That was
Last Friday.
I will try to play with it.
No, I did not. It was not on
I will try
ours.
to create a demo application to fetch his data and show it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then once we figure out kind of the format of the data that we're getting back from Guac, then we can figure out how we want to link that together into our UI. Whether it's just going to be a list like Tracy said, or if we're actually going to do some graphing with it. The graphs that they're showing in their demo are this Viz.js graphs of hierarchical tree nodes. So it's not anything we haven't done before. So
I just don't know how the graphs help.
I don't think they do.
I know the data helps because you can query the data and you can do something with that data, but the data has to be based on version. So the graphs are cool looking and we can certainly bring them in for the wow factor, but I feel like the dependency data is what Saul was talking about in terms of, and we already have some of that because we have the SBOMs, right? So pulling in the graphs it does help us with the wow factor.
And what they provide is a SBOM of a SBOM. So if you have like for example a Flask package, then Flask is dependent upon 5 other packages, and then those 5 packages are dependent upon 100 other packages that they hook all those SBOMs together. So for us, we just at the point that we're at right now, we're looking at just the component SBOMs, not SBOM of SBOM of SBOM, and that's
Right.
where their capabilities come into play, because they are going to traverse that that for us.
Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, and also they're considering using ArangoDB, believe it or not. So
Yeah, they actually quizzed Steve on that. I could tell that they were thinking about it, and I was like, man, the discussions we've had on that. We've been there.
so it should be a really good fit, because then we can actually, like we're talking about, we could be the repository of the SBOM data, and they just point to our database to do their traversals through. Good overlap. But first we need to just get the thing a basic up and running, see what their CLI does, and go from there. So that's your marching orders, Sasha and Armin.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, so I'm thinking of Go, because I like the fact that we're using Go.
I think I'm guessing their client is written in Go.
Okay, cool.
Their CLI.
And if it's all written in Go, I'd love to learn Go, so this is a good opportunity.
Yeah, and I found I was thinking about this the other day on how to describe like Go, and it's kind of a cross between Java and Python. The only thing that's a little bit weird, I think you ran into this, Utkarsh, is that it doesn't technically have an object structure. It has or object class. It has what they call a structure, and then you can tie methods to that structure, but the structure itself doesn't have functions and method directly embedded into it. So that's where it's kind of like a this crisscross, but it's workable.
I think I might be calling on Utkarsh to help me.
Sure.
And the other weird thing is that I learned when I was implementing translating our stuff from Python over to Golang, was you want to live by their directory structure and how they lay things out, and not try to fit it into something that you're used to, like a Java class structure, or like one of the weird things that they have is all your test cases are in the same directory as your source code. And they say that's just the way it is. You don't have a separate directory for test versus your main code. So your directory ends up with all this stuff in it, but it's just the way they decided to implement things. If you try to move things around, you just spend too much time banging your head against the wall.
With Go, it's just like dump it all in the root. Just leave it.
Yeah.
Kind of. You can have
Okay.
subdirectories, and they're called, what are they called? Modules, I think.
Oh, modules. Okay. It's going to be a new world for me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll put all this information in the issue ticket now. Thanks.
Cool.
You and Tracy helped define direction.
No worries.
Thanks.
Anything else? The only other last thing on my list is I have two things. I gotta get the architecture updated, and I gotta get the bounties updated. So that's on my list. I just get sidetracked here.
And I think in the next call, we should share what you're doing with that dashboard.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
He's working on it. He's working on it, a pretty interesting dashboard that's going to start using the data to represent passing and failing grades and compliance.
Jeepers.
Yeah.
Ortelius is in a good place, eh?
Yeah, and there's some stuff that we have to pull out of the OpenSSF that what they're considering, check boxes for having a secure supply chain. So we have to go over there and steal some of their information of what they want to collect. And same thing with the Fidelity thing, finding out what they're collecting that we may be missing.
Right, which is our next call.
In an hour.
I think it's in half hour.
Alrighty.
So if you guys want to be on that call, is everybody scheduled for that? Is in your calendar? It's at 10:30.
I saw
And-
something in my calendar.
Yeah, Utkarsh is in there. Arvin, I didn't put you in there. Let me add you in case you want to go.
Evidence store discussion.
Yep.
That sounds so interesting.
Okay, Arvin, I just sent it to you. I think I just sent it to kind of the frequent flyers on the architecture call, so we didn't have a bunch of people on there.
Oh, wow, there's gonna be some cool, interesting. Oh wow.
Well, it's just what
Fati's on there.
Yeah, Fati's
Interesting.
going to be there, and of course, I think he goes by Gur.
Yeah, I got the invite.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, we'll talk to you all in 30 minutes if you're interested.
I'm
All right.
definitely
Thanks,
there.
everybody.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks,
Yeah,
everyone.
bye.